Hello, good morning. At the time that I was injured 11 years ago, I was living in North Carolina. I was 29 years old, and I had my own business doing video and film production. I had a group of friends and a girlfriend that I'd been dating for 6 months. And I raced BMX, something that I had been doing since I'd been 12 years old. And on the night of August 6th, 2004, I was at the local BMX track just practicing, and I was on a section of a track that I knew really well, but I lost control, and I came down and ended up breaking my neck at C5 and C6, and left me a quadriplegic. I was rushed to Chapel Hill Medical Center, and when I got there, I was intubated, and I ended up getting pneumonia and was sedated for 3 weeks. And while I was under, I had some terrible hallucinations and like end of the world type hallucinations. And one of the hallucinations was interesting. I was being carried through the woods by a strange group of people, and there was like a lighthouse in the woods, and it was shining like light through the trees, and they were casting shadows on everything. And it was kind of an image that would stay with me through the years and kind of become a metaphor. So I ended up in Shepherd Center in Atlanta, which is a spinal cord specialty center. And I was there for 3 months. And while I was there, I lost everything. My business had to close down, had to move out of my apartment. A girlfriend left, and then a bunch of our mutual friends ended up leaving as well. When I came home, well, there's no home to go back to in North Carolina. So I came back up here where I grew up and moved in with my parents, whose roof I hadn't lived under for 10 years. And, you know, when I moved up here, I didn't know anybody, and I was alone. The one thing about being where you've grown up or spent a lot of time is you're surrounded by memories, you know, memories of your past. And, you know, I would have breakfast at the breakfast table and look out at the front lawn and have memories of when I used to play in that lawn as a kid, you know, and how I'd never be able to walk through that lawn again. Or the fact that I'd never see my bedroom again that I grew up in, despite being in the house. The one thing about a spinal cord injury that's different than a lot of physical injuries is that the goal is not to recover anymore, because that's not a possibility. The goal is to learn a new way of living. And so I was faced with trying to find a new way to live life, and at the same time getting used to a new body image of myself, and also getting used to how the general public interacts with me. And so I was dealing with a lot. And I thought, you know, I did a lot of thinking about my past, because the past was where good memories were. I didn't foresee a time that there would ever be any good memories. I thought, well, I'm going to have 29 years worth of memories to last me the rest of my life, because I just don't see anything being good from this point on. So around that time, I started thinking about the lighthouse and the trees some more, and I kind of came up with like a metaphor for it, like that the light was where I was born, and as it fades out, that's like my life, and it's interrupted by trees, and trees are like the traumatic experiences we have in our lives, and the bigger the experience, the more light it blocks out for the rest of our lives. And you know, I viewed things as tragic events as being things that were irreparable, or, you know, haunted us for the rest of our lives, and it's kind of a bleak way of viewing things. Fortunately, things turned around, but it wasn't overnight. And one of the first things I did was quit wearing lounge-around clothing. Like, you know, spinal cord patients they live in sweatpants when they're first hurt, you know, and sweatshirts, and, you know, and like I just decided just to start wearing regular clothes again, you know, because I wasn't really going to go out of the house, or be less likely to go out of the house in sweatpants and all that than I would be if I actually wore clothes, and started combing my hair and shaving and all that. But I also got involved playing wheelchair rugby, and after seeing the movie Murder Ball, and that got me in touch with people who had my same injury, and some who had had it for a short period of time like I did, and some who had it for years. And there was some solidarity between the guys who had been newly injured, but then the guys who had been injured for years set an example, and it showed us that not only could we, find a new way to live, but we could actually, like, thriving and actually being happy was a possibility. And that's the biggest thing I got out of that. And they showed us, like, what's physically possible. Another big thing for me in my recovery was getting back to work. It was hard to work again because I wasn't leaving a job where my employment was protected when I came back. I was self-employed, and so I had nothing. But I had a client that was an amazing client, and they hired me to, even though they're in North Carolina and I'm up here, I was able to work from home doing web design and graphic design for them. And I got my driver's license, and that was like a huge deal because I was no longer dependent on other people or metro access to get from place to place. I could just go out on a whim and drive. Probably one of the biggest decisions, well, before that, one of the decisions I made just was kind of a fluke. I got on Twitter online, and I met like hundreds of people, and there was got involved with doing tweet-ups, which, if you're on Twitter, is meeting people, groups of people, parties, just at different locations, because you've gotten to know each other online. And, and one of the ones that was probably the scariest one for me was I went up to New York with a couple people, and it ended up being one of the most amazing parties of my life, and the best thing that had happened to me since my injury. Probably one of the biggest decisions I made was to get a dog in 2008. I got a black lab named Sadie, and I just got her to be a pet. I didn't expect her to be any more than a pet, but she ended up becoming a service dog. She picks things up for me. I decided, well, if I'm on Twitter and I have a dog, maybe I should put my dog on Twitter. So she's on Twitter, and she's got like 200 followers, and she tweets about dog stuff, and so in about 2010, a woman named Lori started following my dog on Twitter, and one time just said, "Hey, what's up?" Started talking to my dog, and my dog introduced her to me. She wasn't following me yet, so she started following me, and then we started talking and got to know each other and fell in love and got into a relationship and have been together now for 5 years. So yeah, a room full of women, who would have thought, "Aw," right? So yeah, so we like to joke that when people ask how we met, we say, "Oh, his dog introduced us," like literally. So one of the things since the beginning that was really helpful for me was to have creative outlets. Early on, that took the form of writing. I started a blog and just wrote about how much things sucked. But it really was really, really helpful. And today, most recently, a few years ago, I got into doing electronics and 3D printing, and it's something that I wasn't sure that I would be able to do. As a kid, I liked to tinker around in my dad's workshop, and I thought, I would never be able to do that again. But I've been able to surprise myself with what I've been able to do with 3D printing and with electronics. And just a few weeks ago, I actually filed for my first patent on a device I've been working on. But the best thing that's come out of going out on a limb and seeing if I could do electronics was, there's still some things I can't do. And when that happens, I call up my dad and I go over to his house and we work on a project together. And it's one of those things I'm really grateful the time that I have with my dad, because it's like, if not for my accident, I probably would have I'd still be down in North Carolina, and I'd see my dad on holidays and talk to him every couple weeks. And, I wouldn't have nearly the relationship I have with him that I do today. That's something I'm really grateful for. And one of the things that I think a tragedy gives people is it gives you a level of gratefulness that you might not have had before. It makes you appreciate everything that you have. People, family, a dog, everything, and opportunities. And the flip side to it, though, is that I'm acutely aware of how fragile life is and my own mortality, and that scares me. And it's one of those things that I try to take the energy from that and not let it paralyze me, and let it turn it into enjoying the time I have. That, I guess, that's something I'm grateful for, just being able to realize that and appreciate that. So every part of my recovery has a common thread, and that common thread is that it's involved taking a risk and taking a chance and going out on a limb and doing things that are outside of my comfort zone, or things that scare me. And I have found that those things have led to amazing surprises, like meeting my girlfriend through my dog, or getting the relationship I have with my dad through just trying to get into electronics. And so the past 11 years of my life haven't been easy, but when I look back on where I was and where I am now, I consider it the greatest accomplishment of my life, and that to get to where I am, and that every accomplishment I have from this point on, it just builds on top of that accomplishment. And so today I have a different view of the lighthouse among the trees, and it's not too different, but I've realized one thing, and that is that we're all not lonely lighthouses in the woods. We are surrounded by everybody's lighthouses, the lighthouses of the people, the friends, the loved ones we have, and that, I know in life when I'm down or weak, I know that I have people who can shine their light and help pull me through situations. And so nowadays, when I look back on the past 11 years, things aren't as dark as they once had seemed.